I think a lot of us here are at least have been or are in touch with communities, Vipassana, whatever, Shambhala.
Put the mic to your mouth.
Excuse me?
Put the mic close.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I wondered if there's a way to incorporate being in those communities to the extent that you are with what's happening here. Because I understand that the emphasis here is not on sitting on a cushion for 20 years, which I'm all for. So, like if you want to go to a sitting of some kind where the focus is on the breath, and, would one, in keeping with what we're talking about here, focus on getting in touch with awareness? I mean, is that what the process is at, like at the beginning of our sessions here? Is there a way to incorporate, or are they at odds?
But what we're doing here is not focusing on anything. As we saw this morning, you can't focus on awareness. You can only focus on an object. And the breath is often used in traditions because a breath is one of the subtlest objects. So the teaching recognizes that awareness cannot be focused on, so it gives us a kind of a subtle object, which is like a placeholder for awareness. And it gives us that to focus on. But it's a different approach to the approach that we take, which is not focusing on anything. It's if anything, we could define it as a defocusing of our attention from any particular appearance. It's rather the opposite of focusing. It's allowing attention to flow not towards the object, but to flow back to its source. So it's a different approach. So what to do if you're part of a tradition, a Vipassana tradition, or any other tradition that suggests or says something that would seem to be in contradiction to what we're suggesting here. What I would suggest is this, that while you're here, you just explore everything that is being suggested in your own experience. And you see the truth of it for yourself in your own experience. But then you allow yourself, you go back to your life and you allow yourself to just be drawn towards whoever or whatever you like, including your Vipassana community or whatever it is. So you go back, let's take the example of a Vipassana retreat. You've been doing this every year for the last 15 years. I'm just making up a scenario. You've been going on Vipassana retreats every year for the last 15 years. You love them. The fact that you're here suggests that they're not giving everything, they're not giving you everything you want. That's fine, that's no criticism, but you're here exploring another possibility. So then you go back to your Vipassana community or your Vipassana retreat, and you carry on. You just follow. You're going because you want to go there. Nobody's forcing you to go there. You explore the meditation, and you just bring this new understanding to bear on all your experience. Don't create a conflict between the two ways. Be open. Be totally open to this way, insofar as it speaks to you in your own experience, and continue to do all these other activities. And at some stage you may feel that you're just no longer drawn to certain types of activity as a result of your new understanding. In other words, this understanding has an impact on your life, on not just on the way you think, but on the way you feel, the way you act, the people you hang out with, the kind of relationships you have, the kind of work you do. It has an impact on, it infiltrates every aspect of one's life. But that should just be allowed to happen naturally. Don't make a conflict between this and any other way. Feel free to keep them both going, and sooner or later there'll have to be a convergence, either a convergence or a divergence. That the two understandings will have to either marry each other and become the same understanding in which there's no conflict, or you may begin to find that there's little parts where they don't meet, and you'll find yourself thinking, which do I want to do? I can't do both at the same time. Am I going to focus on my breath, or am I going to stand knowingly as the openness, or whatever the particular, I don't want to suggest what the conflict might be, and if there is a conflict, just hold it, just allow it to be there. Allow your understanding to resolve the conflict. Don't pit one teaching against another or one teacher against another. So if this conflict arises, just submit it to your understanding and let your understanding slowly take care of it and lead you in the direction which to you seems the truest.
Because I feel like their approach is different, but that the overarching conception, or I know conception's an object, whatever word
Yes.
I'd say is probably
Yeah.
not appropriate, but I mean that the idea of awareness is something
Yes.
that is central to that tradition. It's just that if you will, the technique is,
Yes.
on its face seems to be different, and I'm not drawn to that technique.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to the community, though. Because it is people that are, I think,
Yes.
are in the of similar ilk.
Yes. But all spiritual and religious traditions are founded upon the understanding we're speaking of here. Some are closer. The Vipassana tradition it's not the same, you're right, it's not the same as this tradition, but it may seem closer than, for instance, the tradition that we see with the group that we're sharing this retreat center with. But Christianity is founded upon this understanding. However, just because it's founded upon this understanding doesn't mean that everything that is spoken in the name of Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism is therefore necessarily an expression of that understanding. It isn't. So you have to, you're quite right to discern that at the heart of the Vipassana or Buddhist or whatever tradition it is, that this understanding is there. It is there in all the traditions. That doesn't mean that you necessarily have to follow each of the prescriptions and practices of that tradition, because those practices don't all come from this understanding.
I mean, it can be kind of comical if you're sitting there in a meditation setting where the focus is on the breath and you're doing something else.
Yes, and if that is the case, that situation is going to precipitate a conflict in you, sooner or later. It may be okay for the first. I have a close friend who has been going to Vipassana retreats for years and came across this understanding and continued to go to Vipassana retreats because he loved the people, he liked the silence, but he used to sit in the meditations and do his own thing, not do anything. He was just using the format to hang out with nice friends for a week and abide as the presence of awareness. But after a while, it became difficult for him to do that. There's something in him said, I can't really, this doesn't feel right any longer. And he moved away, but not out of pitting one teaching against another. It was just a natural. He stayed, valued all the people, could see that it was a beautiful practice, but in time, without any conflict, he just moved away. His intelligence just moved him away. Now, I don't mean to imply by that it's not intelligent to do Vipassana, not at all. But in his particular case, his intelligence was taking him in a different direction. But the change of direction didn't come out of conflict, arguing between two different approaches or anything like that.
But your analysis would be that if one is in a practice where you're focusing on the breath, that the breath in some shape or form is obviously an object, and that therefore you're not maximizing the opportunity to allow in the space of awareness. It's to the extent that you're focused, you're attempting to control and focus versus defocus.
Yeah. I don't want to get into, I don't want to criticize Vipassana or any other approach. I practiced mantra meditation for over 20 years. Mantra. It wasn't focusing on the breath, but it was focusing on a mantra. Yeah. I loved the practice deeply. Still now, after 15 years of not doing it, because I did it so regularly, I notice sometimes the mantra just starts up. Just if there's a space, it just comes back, and I find that very beautiful. I don't encourage it. I don't invite it, but nor do I try and get rid of it if it comes. It's just a habit, the way this particular body-mind has been configured, and it just comes back. But there was a time when I felt there was a limit, where I couldn't go any further in that tradition. So I moved away. But I moved away with great respect and great love for the tradition, and I know others who stayed, for whom there was no limit, for whom it was okay. It gave them what they wanted, and that's fine. But so do what's right for you. Follow your love and your understanding, and whatever you do, try and have both of these two, love and understanding, love and intelligence, have them both agree, if possible.
I guess it's the importance of community, I think.
You're right.
And that's...
You're right. It's apart from in very rare cases, it's not really possible to do this on your own. Or let's say it's very difficult to do it on your own. The support of friendship and community, and the quality of friendship that develops amongst a group like this, because we see it already. We've hardly been here 24 hours, and we can feel the quality of friendship that develops amongst the group. And the reason for that is that we're not a lot of egos meeting each other, trying to aggrandize ourselves through interaction with another. We're meeting without pretense, without ego, and the quality of friendship responds to that. And so yes, there's a value to that. It's a kind of supportive. You're right to value that. It doesn't matter what denomination, whether someone's a Buddhist or a Christian or an Advaitin, or it doesn't matter. What matters is what's on the inside. What we are on the outside doesn't matter. Ellen, my wife, says to me sometimes, "You're not really an Advaitin. You're only an Advaitin on the outside. You're really a Sufi on the inside." It doesn't matter what we are.